Deep beneath the capital city of Kethra, the command bunker trembled violently as another orbital strike slammed into the surface above. Supreme Leader Vera Thalos stood rigid, watching the holographic battle display. His fleet was gone. What few ships remained were burning in low orbit. The final defensive line around the capital was collapsing. A harsh, synthetic voice suddenly boomed through the chamber from the enemy command network. "This is Overlord Varaktul of the Krixval Empire. Your forces are annihilated. Your defenses are broken. Surrender immediately, and your people will be granted the mercy of servitude." Vera's fists clenched. He stepped forward and answered with as much defiance as he could muster. "We surrender. We lay down our arms. Take the planet, but spare my people." There was a cold, amused pause. "No!" The voice dripped with contempt. "Your species has resisted us for too long. Your world will be an example. We will take this planet by force, and we will leave nothing alive. This is your punishment." The transmission cut. Vera stood frozen for a moment, then slowly turned to his communications officer, his voice now quiet and hollow. "Send the signal, all frequencies, every channel. Tell the galaxy that Kethra is dying if anyone is listening." He looked at the crumbling defense lines on the display, then finished with grim finality. "We beg for help." The officer's hands shook as she activated the emergency broadcast. The signal shot out across the galaxy on every known frequency, a desperate final plea from a civilization on the brink of extinction. Out on the edge of the Seventh Arm, Relay Station Epsilon 7 floated silently in the void. Private Ramirez was leaning back in his chair, boots propped up on the console, hands laced behind his head, staring at the ceiling like it owed him money. The only sound in the room was the low hum of the station's systems. Behind him, someone cleared their throat. Ramirez's eyes went wide. He tilted his head all the way back and saw Commander Holt standing upside down in his vision, arms crossed, staring at him. He practically fell out of his chair trying to stand up straight. "Sir! Yes, sir!" he yelped, snapping into a perfect salute. Commander Holt gave him a long, unimpressed look up and down, then turned his gaze to the main display. A bright red alert blip had just appeared on the edge of the screen. Holt nodded toward it. Ramirez quickly dropped into his seat and started typing. "Station AI, identify that signal." A calm, synthetic voice answered immediately. "Emergency priority broadcast detected. Origin, neighboring galactic arm. A civilization identifying as the Kethran Republic is under heavy assault by the Krixval Empire. Their military has been nearly annihilated. Planetary defenses are collapsing. They are requesting immediate military assistance from any capable species." The private and the commander stared at the screen for a moment. Holt slowly exhaled through his nose. "What?" he muttered. "Again?" The Galactic Council chamber was in chaos. The emergency broadcast from the Kethran Republic played on every single holographic screen in the massive hall. The images were brutal. Burning cities, shattered fleets, desperate civilians fleeing into underground shelters. Voices erupted from every corner of the chamber. "The Krixval Empire has already glassed 12 of their colonies. We don't have the military strength to stop them. Our defense fleets would be wiped out in hours. If we intervene, we're signing our own death warrants." The panic grew louder, more desperate. Species who normally hated each other were now frantically arguing with one another, searching for any solution. Then, gradually, the shouting began to falter. One by one, ambassadors stopped talking, heads turned. The entire chamber slowly fell into an uneasy silence as hundreds of eyes drifted toward the back of the room. The UTF booth. Elias O'Neill sat completely relaxed, legs crossed, calmly reading his physical newspaper like he was on a Sunday morning back home. Beside him, Nadia Kane was typing steadily on her old laptop, the rhythmic clacking of the keys strangely loud in the sudden quiet. She occasionally lifted her mug for a slow sip of coffee, completely unbothered. The silence stretched, Finally, both Elias and Nadia seemed to notice the crushing weight of the entire Galactic Council staring at them. In perfect unison, he slightly lowered his newspaper and she glanced over her laptop. They looked at each other. For just a moment, they shared the same flat, exhausted glance that somehow said everything without a single word. Again? Elias lowered his newspaper. Nadia gently closed her laptop with a soft click. They both turned their heads toward the sea of desperate faces and spoke in perfect, icy sync. Humanity is fine! Handle it yourselves! The entire Galactic Council stared at them in stunned silence. After a long, painful pause, the Chancellor of the Council finally spoke, his voice almost pleading. But you can help, can't you? Elias O'Neill closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and let out a long, exhausted sigh as he pinched the bridge of his nose. He slowly turned his head and shared one more deadpan glance with Nadia Kane. She gave him the tiniest nod. Elias tapped his temple, activating his subdermal communicator, while Nadia calmly reopened her laptop and resumed typing. The soft clacking of keys once again filled the booth. "Terran Central Command," Elias said in a flat, bored voice. "This is Council Booth. We have another one." He paused, then added with clear irritation, "Send word to Admiral Draven." "Luna, Terran Central Command Deck." The heart of the UTF military beat deep inside the hollowed-out moon. The Central Command Deck was a vast, dimly lit chamber carved into Luna's core, its walls lined with massive holographic displays showing every system in the Seventh Arm. The equatorial gate loomed in the distance outside, visible through the transparent dome ceiling as capital ships slowly drifted in and out of the moon's colossal maw. At one of the dozens of monitoring consoles, a young lieutenant suddenly sat up straight as a priority alert flashed across her screen. "Admiral, incoming emergency broadcast from the neighboring Galactic Arm." Admiral Cale Draven was standing only a few meters away, arms folded across his broad chest, staring at the main strategic holomap. He didn't even turn around at first. The lieutenant quickly routed the message to the main display. The desperate plea from the Catharan Republic played across the deck. Burning cities, shattered fleets, a civilization on the edge of extinction. Draven finally turned his head toward the screen. His single eye narrowed. He listened in complete silence until the message ended. Then, in a low, gravelly voice thick with familiar irritation, he muttered, "What? Again?" Draven exhaled slowly through his nose, shaking his head. "Signal the Tower of Lightning. Inform Captain Reyes she's up. 1 void carrier, 4 strike cruisers, full marine complement. They jump in 30 minutes. He glanced back at the burning world on the screen and added under his breath, "These idiots never learn." Aboard the void carrier, Tower of Lightning. Captain Lena Reyes was standing at the forward observation window, hands clasped behind her back, when the priority message from Luna arrived. She listened to the transmission in silence, her matte black officer's cap tilted at its usual cocky angle. The moment Admiral Draven's voice faded, she let out a soft, resigned sigh. "Another one," she muttered. Reyes turned on her heel and walked back to the center of the bridge. The entire bridge crew was already watching her. "Comms, open a fleet-wide channel." The communications officer snapped to attention. "Channel open, ma'am." Reyes didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. "All ships, this is Captain Reyes. We have received a distress call from the neighboring Galactic Arm. The Krixval Empire is currently glassing the Catharan Republic. Command has ordered us to intervene." She paused, letting the words sink in, then continued with clear boredom in her tone. "Standard response package. Tower of Lightning will serve as flagship. The cruisers, Vanguard, Reaper, Stiletto, and Iron Oath will escort. Full fighter complement and 2 full marine battalions are to be prepped for immediate drop pod deployment. We jump in 25 minutes. She glanced at her XO. "Make sure the Marines are properly caffeinated this time. I don't want to hear any complaints about not enough coffee before orbital insertion again." A few crew members chuckled quietly. Reyes walked over to the tactical display, zooming in on the target system. Red markers showed the Kriegsval fleet already in high orbit around the planet. She stared at the display for a moment, then shook her head with a small, crooked smile. "Every single time," she said quietly. "They always wait until they're getting their asses kicked before they call us." She turned back to her crew, voice now crisp and professional. "Bring the fleet to combat readiness. I want every fighter fueled, every drop pod loaded, and every marine locked and loaded by the time we reach the jump point." Reyes took a slow sip from her steel mug, then added with a wicked little grin, "Let's go remind the galaxy why they don't fuck with the Seventh Arm." Tower of Lightning, Marine Armory. A piercing red alarm began flashing across the armory bay as the alert klaxon blared. Both Lieutenant Marcus Drake and Lieutenant Sophia Reyes snapped their heads upward at the same moment. Their eyes met across the room. A wicked, feral grin spread across both their faces at the exact same time. "Game time," Drake said, already sprinting toward the armor racks. Sophia was right beside him, matching his pace. "Try not to embarrass yourself this time, scoreboard." The two lieutenants slammed their hands against the smooth metallic spheres mounted on the wall. The moment they made contact, the spheres dissolved into liquid metal that flowed over their bodies like living mercury. Within seconds, the liquid hardened and reshaped into the sleek matte black and gunmetal gray Mark V power armor. Drake rolled his shoulders as the suit sealed itself. "God, I love this part." He immediately began cycling through camouflage patterns on his forearm display. Tiger stripe, flat dark, woodland, urban gray. He finally settled on a deep forest green pattern with subtle black accents. Sophia did the same beside him, testing her own suit systems. "4-eye array online," she said, her helmet's 4 independent sensors glowing softly to life. Each lens moved independently, tracking different targets across the room with mechanical precision. Drake grabbed his hybrid energy rifle from the rack, racking it with a satisfying mechanical click. Gauss mode, hypervelocity ferromagnetic slugs, range and penetration. He quickly switched modes. Laser, silent, continuous high-energy beam, precision cutting, and burn through. Another click. Plasma, explosive bolts, splash, and cover destruction. My personal favorite? Sophia checked her own rifle, then looked over at him with a smirk. "You done playing with your toys yet?" Drake gave her a cocky grin, his 4-eyed helmet making the expression look strangely predatory. "Just making sure everything's working. Wouldn't want you to have an excuse when I beat your kill count again." Both of them activated their automated reflex systems with a final system check. The suits gave a soft, confident chime as all functions came online. The 8 Mark V combat androids stood silently in perfect formation behind them, 4 behind Drake, 4 behind Sophia, already fully armored and armed, their 4-eyed visors glowing a cold, steady crimson. Sophia tilted her head slightly, that wicked grin still plastered on her face. "Vanguard squad, let's go show these aliens what real firepower looks like." Captain Lena Reyes stood at the center of the bridge of the Tower of Lightning, hands clasped behind her back, watching the final status reports roll in. "All ships report ready, Captain," her XO announced. "Fighter wings are loaded. Drop pods are green. Marine squads are locked in." Reyes gave a single nod. "Take us out." The massive Void carrier and its 4 escorting strike cruisers broke formation from the fleet anchorage. The moment they cleared Luna's defensive ring, the 5 ships vanished in a brilliant flash as they jumped into FTL, back on planet Kethra. Supreme Leader Verathalos was still standing in the crumbling command center when a cold, mechanical voice suddenly cut through the chaos. "This is UTF Central Command. Your distress signal has been received. A rapid response fleet has been dispatched. ETA, 28 minutes. The entire bunker went dead silent. Vera's eyes widened in disbelief. You're actually coming? Thank you. Thank you so much. The voice cut him off mid-sentence, completely indifferent. Rapid response fleet is en route. Do not interfere with orbital operations. Terran command out. The transmission ended abruptly. Vera stood frozen, staring at the now silent console as another explosion shook the bunker. One of his aides whispered in awe, "They're really coming!" Vera slowly sank into his chair, voice barely audible. "The Terrans are coming!" Captain Reyes stood motionless on the bridge of the carrier, eyes fixed on the shimmering holo display. The preliminary long-range recon scans painted a grim picture. 43 Imperial warships in tight formation, their signatures burning bright against the void. She tapped a command, rerouting power to forward sensors, then spoke quietly to the comms officer. "Keep that stealth probe on passive. I don't want them knowing we're watching yet." A deck below, in the Marine Ready Bay, Gunnery Sergeant Kane moved between his squad. He checked power mags on their hybrid rifles, ran diagnostics on every suit of powered armor, and made sure the new shield modulators were synced to the ship's emitters. "Lock it down, people. We drop hot in 10. You know the drill. Shields first, then we own the sky." The countdown hit 0. Space folded around them as the 5 ships slid out of FTL with a ripple of displaced stars. The moment they materialized, the alien defense fleet lit up every channel at once. "Terran vessels, this is Admiral Core of the Catharan Republic. You brought 5 ships against 43? Are you mad? We are lost. Evacuate what you can and run." Reyes leaned forward, voice calm and steady over the open channel. "Admiral Core, stand down your panic. This is more than enough. Watch." The Imperial Armada opened fire instantly, hundreds of purple plasma blasts streaking across the black void toward the 5 human ships. Every single shot slammed into the UTF shields and simply vanished, swallowed whole by pocket dimensions. Half a second later, those same pockets tore open again, flinging the entire barrage straight back at the Kriegswall fleet. 2 cruisers and a battleship detonated in brilliant violet fire before the Imperials even realized what had happened. On the bridge of the Tower of Lightning, Captain Lena Reyes allowed herself the smallest smirk. "See, Admiral, we brought the right 5 ships. Now, if you'll excuse me, we have an armada to send home in pieces." The Catharan Admiral's stunned silence said everything. The 5 UTF vessels hung in space like bored predators watching a pack of angry puppies. 43 Kriegswall warships burned hard toward them, every plasma cannon blazing. Captain Reyes took another slow sip of her coffee, eyes half-lidded. "Keep the shields up. Standard bounce protocol. Let's not make this take all day." The next wave of heavy plasma bolts slammed into the carrier's shields and disappeared. A heartbeat later, they tore back out of folded space, screaming toward their original owners at full velocity. Several more enemy ships ceased to exist in brilliant flashes of light. The rest of the Imperial formation panicked and broke, ships scattering in every direction like roaches when the lights come on. Reyes's wicked grin finally broke across her face. "See? This is why nobody invites us to parties anymore. We ruin them." Down in the Marine Bay, the drop pods were already screaming towards the planet. Lieutenant Marcus Drake's voice crackled over the squad channel, half laughing. "Scoreboard's open, Reyes. First 1 to 400 buys the drinks." Lieutenant Sophia Reyes's voice came back instantly, dripping with contempt. "You're on, scoreboard. Try not to cry when my drones smoke yours again." The 8 Mark V combat androids simply locked their visors forward, wicked grins somehow visible even through the matte black helmets. Drop pods hit atmosphere like a meteor shower, thousands of them. The sky over the Catharan capital turned into a descending storm of fire and steel. The moment the first pod slammed into the ground outside the burning capital, the hatches blew open and Vanguard squad stepped out like they were walking into a bar. Drake racked his hybrid rifle, already grinning under his helmet. "Gauss mode, boys, let's make some noise." The first wave of Krixval elite troops charged across the rubble, 8-foot-tall reptilian monsters in heavy armor, roaring their battle cry, plasma cannons blazing. They lasted exactly 4 seconds. Mark V suits blurred. Hybrid rifles cycled through modes faster than the eye could follow. Silent laser beams carving through armor. Gauss slugs punching clean holes through entire squads. Plasma bolts exploding in the middle of formations and turning 20 soldiers into red mist at once. Drake's voice swooped over comms. 17, you keeping up, Reyes? 23, asshole! Stop talking and shoot! The 8 androids moved in eerie silence, never wasting a single round, never breaking formation, their 4-eyed visors glowing crimson as they dismantled the enemy line with machine precision. Every time one of them fired, that same wicked feral grin flashed across their synthetic faces. And so it continued, the 2 lieutenants trash-talking their way through a battlefield, while the galaxy's most dangerous rapid response force turned an invasion into a massacre. The first wave of Krixval shock troops crashed into the ruined plaza like a green tidal wave, massive, roaring, plasma cannons thundering. Drake and Sophia were already standing side by side, rifles up. "Ghost!" Drake barked, thumbing his weapon. The rifle fired hypervelocity slugs that tore through the front rank of aliens. 3 of them dropped before they even finished their battle cry. 92! He shouted, already laughing. Sophia rolled her eyes inside her helmet. 112, she answered, switching her rifle to plasma mode with a smooth click. She hip-fired 3 explosive bolts into a clustered squad. The street lit up with orange fireballs. Alien limbs and armor plates rained down around them. Drake's head snapped toward her. Bullshit. There's no way you're already at 112. 120 now, she said sweetly, never breaking stride. Keep up, scoreboard. Behind them, their 8 Mark V androids moved like ghosts. Number 1 to number 4 shadowed Drake in perfect formation, while Sophia's 4, 5 through 8, moved with the same eerie coordination. All 8 wore that same sharp, feral grin the moment they acquired a target. A few pods down, Private Jake Harper's element pod blew open. The young private stepped out with his 4 assigned synthetics, still looking a little wide-eyed, but the second his boots hit the dirt, that same sharp grin split across his face. He racked his rifle and fell in beside the nearest one without a word. Drake vaulted over a shattered wall, Gauss rifle barking. 155, eat that! Sophia slid into cover right beside him, laser mode humming silently. 2 thin red beams lanced out, carving through 2 alien officers' helmets like a hot knife through butter. 162, she called out, voice dripping with mock pity. You're embarrassing yourself in front of the drones again. One of Sophia's drones, number 6, the broad-shouldered one, calmly stepped past them both, plasma mode thumping. A whole fire team of Krixval vanished in a single bright explosion. Drake groaned. Did you just let your drone steal my kills? Sophia laughed, the sound bright and vicious inside her helmet. They're not stealing anything. They're just better than you. The 2 lieutenants pushed forward together through the burning streets, rifles cycling through every mode, trash-talking the entire time. Their 8 androids flowed around them like a deadly ballet. Silent, perfectly synchronized, never wasting a single shot. Every time one of them fired, that same sharp, feral grin flashed across their synthetic faces. Drake suddenly skidded to a stop in the middle of a cratered intersection, raising his rifle toward a massive Krixval heavy gunner stomping toward them. 177, that one's mine! Sophia didn't even look. She simply flicked her rifle to Gauss, fired once without aiming, and the heavy gunner's head exploded like a melon. 200, she said, already walking past him. Better luck next time, scoreboard. Drake stood there for a second, mouth open. I hate you. Sophia tossed a wicked grin over her shoulder, voice sweet as poison. Love you too, sweetheart. The 8 androids said nothing. They simply followed, visors glowing, wicked grins locked in place, quietly racking up kills while their 2 loud, organic leaders argued like an old married couple in the middle of a war zone. Deep beneath the shattered skyline of Kethra, inside a half-collapsed command bunker, Overlord Varak Thul smashed his clawed fist into the holotable so hard the entire projector flickered. The map was a nightmare. Green runes representing his elite legions were blinking out by the dozens. Entire companies vanishing in seconds. Whole defensive lines collapsing like wet paper. "What is this?" he roared, voice like grinding gravel and broken glass. Spit flew from his jagged maw as he towered over his trembling staff officers. "Who are these demons? Where did they come from?" One of his aides, a smaller lizard with singed scales, stammered, "They call themselves humans, Overlord, from the Seventh Galactic Arm, the United Terran Federation." "I have never heard of them!" Varak Thul bellowed, slamming his fist down again. The table cracked this time. "5 ships! They brought 5 ships and my fleet is ash! Now their ground troops carve through my best warriors like they're children!" He stabbed a thick claw at the holographic display, zooming in on the burning plaza where Drake and Sophia were operating. The 2 black-armored figures looked tiny on the map, but everywhere they moved, his runes died. "Look at them!" he snarled, fangs bared. "They're laughing! I can see it in their body language. They're treating this like a game." A junior officer dared to speak. "Overlord, our scouts say they keep shouting numbers at each other. They are competing on who kills more of us." Varak Thul went dead silent for half a second. Then he exploded. "They are counting us like livestock!" He grabbed the nearest officer by the throat, lifted the much smaller lizard clean off the ground, and hurled him across the bunker. The body hit the wall with a sickening crunch. "Send in the Iron Fang Battalion, all of them! Every heavy walker, every elite guard, every last drone killer we have. I want those 2 black devils brought to me in chains or I will eat your hearts while you still breathe." The bunker erupted into frantic motion. Orders were screamed. Alarms blared. Outside the command post, hundreds of fresh Krixval troops poured out of underground barracks. Massive reptilian warriors in heavy crimson plate, shouldering enormous plasma repeaters, climbing into towering walker suits that shook the ground with every step. Varak Thul leaned over the cracked holotable, chest heaving, yellow eyes burning with rage. His claws dug grooves into the metal as he watched 2 tiny black markers, Drake and Sophia, continue carving a bloody path straight toward his position. He bared every fang in his mouth, voice dropping into a venomous growl. "Humans! I will remember that name, and when I am done with you, the galaxy will fear it." The Iron Fang Battalion surged forward, thousands strong, straight into the meat grinder. The 2 lieutenants were still bickering in the middle of the burning plaza when Captain Reyes's voice cut through the squad channel, calm and bored as ever. "Vanguard, this is Valkyrie. Fleet's done. 43 ships are scrapped. The last of their ground forces just started moving. All of them. Final battalions, heavy armor, the works. We're dropping the big toys." Drake actually stopped shooting for a second, grinning under his helmet. "Finally, I was getting bored down here." Sophia Reyes didn't even look up from sighting her next target. "Told you we should have brought snacks." "Heavy armor and mechs inbound," Captain Reyes continued, clearly sipping coffee while she talked. "Phantom tanks, Vesper APCs, and a squadron of Draven siege frames. Your orders are simple. Hold this line and push. Annihilate whatever's left. Don't make me come down there myself." Drake laughed. "Copy that, ma'am. We'll try to leave some for you." The sky above them suddenly filled with new fire. Not drop pods this time. Heavy metal rain. Massive phantom hover tanks slammed into the street a kilometer away, their adaptive camouflage flickering as they settled. Low-profile Vesper. APCs glided in right behind them, side panels already unfolding into firing positions. 8-meter-tall driven siege frames fell under shields, thrusters correcting their descent before gravity-breaking bursts hammered the street beneath them. They shook the ground like earthquakes as they landed. The moment the armor hit dirt, the wicked grins on every UTF face got even sharper. Drake racked a fresh power mag into his rifle and rolled his shoulders. All right, scoreboard's resetting. New game. Highest count when this is over. Loser buys drinks for the whole platoon. Sophia Reyes chambered a plasma bolt with a satisfying clack, her voice sweet and venomous. You're on, sweetheart. Try not to die before I lap you twice. Behind them, the 8 Mark V drones silently formed back into perfect formation, rifles up, that same feral smile locked on their faces. In the distance, the ground began to tremble. Thousands of Kriegswall troops, the entire Iron Fang battalion, were charging straight at them in one final desperate wave. Heavy walkers stomped forward, plasma cannons glowing white-hot, supported by hundreds of armored vehicles. Drake and Sophia stood shoulder to shoulder, watching the tsunami of red armor roll toward them. Drake tilted his head, still grinning. Now what? Sophia just smirked, rifle already rising. Same thing we always do. Both of them raised their weapons at the same time. Kill them all? The entire UTF line, tanks, Draven siege frames, power-armored marines, and silent androids, opened fire as one. The roar that answered the enemy charge was deafening. The Iron Fang battalion hit them like a red avalanche. Thousands of roaring lizard warriors, heavy walkers stomping forward, armored vehicles gliding on repulsors, all charging straight into the UTF line. Phantom tanks' magnetically accelerated plasma lances screamed across the battlefield, each shot punching clean through 3 or 4 enemy walkers at once. Vesper APCs raked the advancing infantry with plasma repeaters. Towering Draven siege frames traded devastating fire with enemy walkers, while Mark V fire teams darted between them like angry hornets. Drake and Sophia sprinted straight into the chaos, side by side, rifles cycling through every mode. 73! Drake yelled, gauze slugs tearing through a squad of elites. 89! Sophia answered, plasma bolts turning another group into burning mist. Their 8 drones moved like shadows around them, silent, precise, deadly, racking up kills without ever saying a word. Halfway across the shattered plaza, a massive enemy walker, 30 meters tall, bristling with cannons, stomped toward them, its footfalls shaking the ground. Its pilot hatch glowed behind thick armored glass. Drake spotted it first. Big boy at 12 o'clock! Sophia didn't even hesitate. Mine. She triggered her jump boosters. The Mark V suit roared and launched her 30 meters straight up. She twisted in midair, landed feet first on the walker's shoulder armor with a heavy clang of her mag boots, and immediately slammed her rifle against the cockpit glass. Laser mode screamed to life. The silent red beam carved a perfect circle through the reinforced glass in less than 2 seconds. The moment the hole was open, she shoved the barrel inside, flicked to plasma, and pulled the trigger. The cockpit lit up like a furnace. A muffled explosion shook the entire walker. Smoke and flames belched out of the hole she'd cut. Sophia kicked off the shoulder, boosters flaring, and dropped gracefully back to the ground beside Drake like she'd just stepped off a curb. Drake stared at her, mouth open under his helmet. That was the coolest thing I've ever seen. Sophia flicked a bit of molten glass off her rifle, grinning like a shark. 97! Try to keep up, scoreboard! Drake laughed, loud, wild, and completely thrilled, and both of them charged back into the fray together, rifles never stopping, kill count climbing higher with every step. Behind them, the giant walker slowly toppled, crashing to the ground in a cloud of smoke and fire. The battlefield had turned into pure carnage. Phantom tanks glided silently through the smoke, their plasma lances carving glowing holes through everything in their path. Draven siege frames traded brutal fire with enemy walkers, while Vesper APCs tore through the remaining infantry like wolves through sheep. Drake and Sophia were deep in the thick of it, still neck and neck. 512! Drake shouted, voice hoarse from yelling over the gunfire. 531! Sophia fired back, switching to laser mode and dropping 3 elites with a single sweeping beam. You're slowing down, old man! Drake laughed and vaulted over a burning wreck. Old man? I'm literally 2 months older than you! A massive Kriegsval heavy gunner suddenly rose from cover directly in front of them, plasma cannon already spinning up. Before either lieutenant could react, a single Gauss slug punched straight through the alien's chest from the side. The gunner dropped like a sack of bricks. Drake and Sophia both turned at the same time. Private Jake Harper stood 20 meters away, rifle still smoking, that same wild grin on his face. One of his 4 assigned synthetics stood right beside him like a silent bodyguard. Jake gave them both a cocky little 2-finger salute, then immediately turned and kept pushing forward with his element. Sophia shook her head, amused. Kid's not bad. Drake just grunted. Don't tell him that. His ego's already big enough. The 2 lieutenants pushed on, their 8 drones flowing around them like liquid death. The enemy line was completely broken now. The Iron Fang battalion had been reduced to scattered, desperate pockets of resistance. Command bunker's dead ahead, Drake called out, pointing at the half-collapsed structure, half-buried in the rubble. That angry lizard's in there somewhere. Sophia racked a fresh power mag into her rifle, eyes gleaming. Then let's go say hi. They didn't bother with subtlety. A Vesper APC glided up beside them, its coaxial cutting laser already tracking. The beam swept across the bunker's massive blast doors, burning through the locking structure in a glowing line. A moment later, the 20-ton doors sagged apart, leaving a molten breach where the lock had been. Drake and Sophia stepped through the breach side by side like they were walking into a bar. The outer bunker was chaos. Staff officers screaming, alarms blaring, soldiers scrambling for weapons. They lasted maybe 6 seconds. Mark V rifles opened up on full auto. Gauss, laser, and plasma cycled so fast the air itself seemed to burn. The 8 drones moved through the smoke like ghosts, dropping targets with cold, mechanical precision. Every single one of them still wore that same wicked, feral grin. Drake kicked open a side door and cleared a room in 2 seconds flat. 750! Sophia dropped from a catwalk above, landing in the middle of a command station and unloading plasma in every direction. 770! Keep up, scoreboard! They carved their way deeper and deeper into the bunker, floor by floor, room by room. Nothing slowed them down. Nothing even came close. Finally, they reached the heavy reinforced doors leading into the core command chamber, the last sealed room in the entire complex. Both lieutenants stopped in front of it, rifles lowered, breathing hard but still grinning like maniacs. Drake glanced sideways at Sophia, still grinning under his helmet. You want to do the honors? Before Sophia could answer, heavy footsteps came around the corner. Colonel Callahan stepped into view with a squad of Marines behind him, Private Jake Harper trailing at the back. The colonel didn't even slow down. Hold up, Callahan barked, voice sharp. That's not going to be open just yet. You 2 don't get the honors for this one. He jerked his thumb at the massive reinforced doors, then looked over his shoulder. Number 3, number 7, open it. 2 of the Mark V combat androids stepped forward without a word. They walked straight up to the sealed blast doors, jammed their armored fingers into the tiny seam where the 2 halves met, and simply started pulling. Servos screamed. Metal groaned. The sheer augmented strength of the Mark V suits was ridiculous. With a tortured metallic screech, the 2 drones forced the massive doors apart like they were sliding open a paper screen. The moment the gap was wide enough, the squad poured inside. The core command chamber was surprisingly intact. Overlord Varric Thol stood in the center of the room, plasma pistol already raised. He got off exactly 1 shot before 4 different targeting systems locked onto the weapon at once. A single Gauss slug punched through the pistol and blew it apart in his hand. The Overlord roared in pain and rage as the ruined weapon clattered to the floor. Drake, Sophia, and the rest of the squad slowly walked into the room, rifles lowered, that same cocky, wicked energy rolling off every single one of them. Drake let out a low whistle. Well, that wasn't much of a problem for us. Sophia smirked, clamping her rifle magnetically to her back. Honestly, I've had harder mornings. Colonel Callahan stepped past them, boots ringing on the metal floor. He walked straight up to the disarmed, furious overlord without a hint of hesitation, raised his sidearm, and put a single round through the lizard's head at point-blank range. The overlord's body hit the floor with a heavy thud. The entire room went dead silent. Jake Harper, still standing near the back, visibly flinched. His eyes widened behind his visor. For half a second, he looked like he was about to say something, but he didn't. He just stood there, staring at the smoking corpse on the ground. Colonel Callahan holstered his pistol like nothing had happened. "Threat neutralized," he said flatly. "Good work, people. Let's wrap this up and go home." Deep underground, inside the main civilian shelter beneath the Capitol, Supreme Leader Vera Thalos stood frozen in front of a cracked monitor. The entire bunker was dead silent. Every screen showed the same thing, the last of the Kriksval Iron Fang Battalion being absolutely dismantled. UTF Marines in sleek black armor moved like demons through the smoke, their rifles flashing between gauss, laser, and plasma so fast it looked like magic. Giant phantom hover tanks glided silently behind them. Towering Draven siege frames provided covering fire, and everywhere those black armored figures went, Kriksval warriors simply died. One of the Kethran defense officers whispered, voice shaking with awe. "They brought 5 ships! 5! And they're doing this!" Vera Thalos couldn't even speak. He just watched as 2 human lieutenants, the ones who had been laughing and shouting numbers at each other the entire battle, casually breached the enemy command bunker like it was nothing. A few moments later, a single gunshot echoed from the feed. The enemy overlord was dead. The bunker erupted into stunned, disbelieving cheers. After months of being slaughtered, the enemy invasion force was destroyed. Vera slowly straightened, still staring at the screen in disbelief. "Open a channel to their flagship," he said quietly. I need to speak with them." Aboard the Tower of Lightning, Captain Lena Reyes was leaning back in her command chair, legs crossed, sipping her coffee when the comms officer spoke up. "Ma'am, we're being hailed by the Kethran Supreme Leader. It's Vera Thalos himself." Reyes raised an eyebrow, then gave a small, tired smile. "Put him through." The main view screen flickered to life. Vera Thalos appeared, looking exhausted, battered, but alive. Behind him, the entire bunker was visible. Hundreds of Kethrans staring at the screen in open reverence. "Captain," Vera's voice cracked with emotion. "On behalf of the entire Kethran people, thank you. You saved us. I don't know how we can ever repay." Reyes held up a hand, cutting him off gently but firmly. She looked almost bored. "Don't. We didn't do this for you." She took another slow sip of coffee, then continued in that same flat, dry tone. "We did it because the galaxy keeps making the same stupid mistakes over and over again, and we're the only ones who can clean up the mess. So, you're welcome. Try not to get yourselves killed again. We're a little busy." Vera blinked, clearly stunned by the casual dismissal. Before he could respond, Reyes gave him a small, crooked smile, the same wicked grin her troops had worn on the ground. "Welcome to the club, Supreme Leader, the one where humanity shows up, solves your problem, and then leaves before you can ask too many questions." She raised her mug in a lazy salute. "Tower of Lightning out." The channel cut. Reyes leaned back in her chair and let out a long sigh. A sleek black UTF dropship settled onto the shattered plaza with barely a sound, its adaptive camouflage flickering as the ramp lowered. Captain Lena Reyes stepped out, matte black officer's cap still tilted at that cocky angle, coffee mug in hand. Drake and Sophia Reyes were already waiting for her, armor still smoking from the fight, both of them grinning like idiots. Captain, Drake said, snapping a lazy salute. War's over. Took us about an hour from boots on ground to Overlord dead. Sophia didn't even let him finish. 770, she announced proudly, jerking a thumb at herself. I win. Drake's head snapped toward her. Bullshit! I had 756! You had 750, Sophia corrected sweetly. I watched number 3 steal 6 of your kills in the final push. Drake groaned. I hate those fucking drones. Captain Reyes took a slow sip of her coffee, clearly fighting a smile. You two are exhausting, she said, shaking her head. Good work, though. The Terrans are already calling us gods. We'll leave a humanitarian support package. Replicators, medical drones, construction fabricators. They can rebuild without us babysitting them. Behind her, the rest of the Marines were already filing up the ramp into the dropship. Dirty, tired, and still wearing those same wicked grins. Private Jake Harper was in the middle of the group, helmet off, looking strangely quiet compared to everyone else. As Jake passed the 3 officers, Captain Reyes gave him a small nod. Harper. Jake paused for half a second, then nodded back silently and kept walking up the ramp. Drake watched him go, frowning slightly. Kid seemed off. Something happened down here? Captain Reyes shrugged, already turning back toward the ship. Doesn't matter. He's going back up with the rest of you. We're done here. She took one last look at the burning capital, then sighed. Another one cleaned up. Let's go home, people. The 3 of them started walking toward the dropship together as the last Marines loaded up behind them. In the distance, the first Terran humanitarian drones were already descending from orbit, bright white against the smoke-filled sky. The dropship slid into the Tower of Lightning's hangar bay and settled onto the deck with a soft, magnetic clunk. The ramp dropped, and the Marines started filing out, still buzzing from the fight. A massive view screen on the hangar wall had been patched into the Kethran victory broadcast. Supreme Leader Verathalos was standing on a stage in front of a cheering crowd, his voice thick with emotion. The Terrans came with only 5 ships and they saved us all. We owe them everything. They are the greatest heroes our galaxy has ever... A holographic projector in the hangar hummed to life. Colonel Callahan's full-sized hologram appeared right beside Vera on the alien stage. The real Colonel Callahan stood just a few meters away from the Marines in the hangar, arms behind his back, watching his own hologram with a bored expression. On the screen, Callahan's hologram didn't even let Vera finish. He raised a hand, cutting the Supreme Leader off mid-sentence. Yeah, whatever, he said flatly. Tell your people to stay out of trouble next time. We're not a charity. He made a lazy, cutting gesture. The feed was immediately killed. The view screen went black. The entire hangar went dead silent. Jake Harper stopped walking. His face was pale as he stared at the blank screen, then slowly turned toward the real Colonel Callahan standing just 10 feet away. You... Jake's voice was low and shaking. He was thanking us. The whole planet was thanking us, and you just... Colonel Callahan turned, eyebrow raised, like Jake was an annoying child. Private, stand down. This isn't a debate club. Jake dropped his rifle. It clattered loudly on the deck. He walked straight up to the colonel, wound up, and punched him square in the jaw. Jake's Mark V suit cut the strength assist before impact, but the crack of armored gauntlet on bone still echoed through the entire hangar bay. Colonel Callahan's head snapped sideways. Blood sprayed from his split lip as he staggered back a step, eyes wide with genuine shock. The entire bay went dead silent. Marines froze mid-step. Tools clattered to the deck. Drake and Sophia Reyes stood frozen 10 meters away, mouths open. Captain Lena Reyes slowly turned from where she'd been talking to her XO. Her usual bored expression melted into pure surprise. Jake stood there breathing hard, fist still clenched, staring at the colonel like he couldn't believe what he'd just done. After 3 long, painful seconds of silence, Captain Reyes let out a low whistle. She looked over at Drake and Sophia, that familiar wicked grin slowly creeping across her face as she said, "Well, look at who's going to the ass end of the galaxy."